What's it like to survive RimWorld for 100 days as the rich explorer? Grab your money, money, money! Come with me and let's find out. Like every start in RimWorld, we begin by cutting down some trees. That way we can go ahead and try and build ourselves a little home. We actually claimed some ancient ruins and used the wood we collected to build onto it. Nothing more comfortable than laying on an ice-cold brick floor. We also used some of the slate that we collected from the ruins to go ahead and build some walls walling off some local caves that were filled with some shit-eating bugs. It would be very awful if the bugs creeped into our bed at night and began nibbling on our toes. We also went ahead and began building a cooler to keep our meats and whatnot cool. Just after that, we had somebody named Wanda offering to join us if we'd allow them to stay here and sleep on the bricks with us, so we said, what the heck, come on in. And since our main colonist, Adams, was rich, we decided to give her that bougie life and go ahead and build 2 separate bedrooms for both of them. Sometime later, I discovered a dead person who was part of a trade caravan. It looked like they got into a social fight and they left this man for dead, so we took his wares and goods. We also began planting some beautiful potato crops just outside our base next to the generator, just before our very first raid happened later in the night. The raider wasn't much of a threat though. They were very unintelligent and stepped on every trap up until the traps murdered them. On our colonist Adam's birthday, she actually developed Alzheimer's. She and Wanda also huddled near a torch at night to try not to freeze to death. Because of the icy grip of winter, I decided I would make the ladies some nice leather parkas that way they don't die. Then, of course, in the dead of night, we were now being raided by, a raider who was coming to murder us and take our goodies. We simply stabbed the raider in his soft bits until he stopped moving, and voila, the raid was over. Actually, that's not entirely correct. We were actually being raided once again by a different raider who is coming at us again. But luckily for us, a trade caravan was leaving our colony and decided to take care of him for us. After that, we elected Adams as our leader and also began a beautiful ceremony where we made wooden lanterns and sent them into the sky. Just after that, we received a notification from a wanderer who was wanting to join us, so we quickly accepted, of course. And he began his trot through the icy snow to his new home. Then we received another notification for the deserter quest, so we had a deserter from the Empire here on the planet. We quickly accepted him as well. He would be a much needed addition to the team. Of course, he was being hunted down by a soldier, but that was alright because the soldier stepped on every trap until he died. We also gave Wanda a religious leader role in the colony, so she was pretty tickled about that. Some time had passed and I realized our buddy Whistler here was actually addicted to Luciferium, and we would not be able to sustain that, and he would eventually die. So I stripped him to take his belongings and allowed him to freeze to death out there in his cabin. And then of course, yes, you guessed it, we were being raided once again. One of the raiders was thwarted by our traps, and then the other, who was very nimble, was shot and stabbed to death, thankfully. After freezing for a few days, Whistler finally died, and then guess what? We were being raided again! I know, ever so exciting, is it not? Because our traps were all used up, they made it through the murder hallway quite quickly, but unfortunately for them, they were still not much of a threat, and we shot them down in the snow. We also stripped them of their belongings and, left them out there naked to freeze to death. Very humane treatment. We also had a mad muffalo that wanted to get its head splattered, so, of course, we happily obliged it. Poor dumb animal. We also finally enslaved one of the raiders that had came to attack us, and now they work for us, for free! Can you believe it? It was honestly very sad because the slave's religion hated cutting trees and we forced him to cut trees. It's awful. The slave also very much hurt my feelings because they had a permanent move buff as of right now because we were a poor colony. Can you believe that? The slave thinks we're poor. How dare he? Adams, also in a psychic wandering state, decided it'd be a great idea to go out in the rain and slaughter our husky. These sickos. we detected a hunting site nearby and it was just ripe for the picking, so we began to send people out to pick it. While our person was heading down to the hunting site to raid them, we had some refugees calling and they were very desperate, so we actually allowed them to join us, and in exchange we made them work on our spike traps and other very dangerous tasks. After some time, one of our colonists finally arrived at the hunting site. It was only being guarded by 2 hunters from a tribal colony, so our machine gun, of course, was, ready to pick them off one by one. We murdered one, and then the other coward fled back to his mama to tell her what happened. I also decided it would probably be a very good idea to make a gift for our slave, so we made him a really nice necklace that he could wear around to keep him suppressed. He looked beautiful in it as we forced him to harvest our rice crops so that we wouldn't starve this winter. But all this peaceful rice harvesting wouldn't last. We were now being raided by a small group of raiders once again. They circled just outside our base, plotting on how they would attempt to try and attack us. Just as any other raiders, though, they decided to come through our murder hallway, which was a big mistake. Those who were nimble enough to make it through the murder hallway and out to the end were met with a Hail Mary of bullets and quickly got shot down. But despite all the raids, the colony was still growing quite quickly. We were getting more members and more slaves and more items, so I decided the community should come together and we would go ahead and start building a big area to go ahead and store all our goodies, a warehouse of sorts. Sometime later, our kind words finally got through to one of the prisoners that we had taken previously, and he decided to join us. He also went to the warehouse to take up arms to protect his new home and family. Then, unfortunately, our refugees who had stayed with us for a few days ended up leaving. And naturally, of course, as the refugees were leaving, we were now being raided once again by a handful of people. But this time, our defenses would not only be spike traps, we finally built gun turrets on each side of our base to protect us. Oh, those fools knew nothing of what they were walking into. As soon as they left the murder hallway, we began turning each and every one of them into a block of Swiss cheese. Or maybe a slice? I'm not sure. And of course, just after the raid, 2 of our colonists got into a fist fight in our research room for, who really knows, but you know how those colonists are. They just love to try and knock each other's teeth out for some reason. And then, unfortunately, Adams had a mental break and she was berserk or a murderous rage. I can't really remember, but I do remember that I may have took things a little bit far when attempting to stop her, and we were shooting at her and accidentally killed her. So I guess I really didn't survive for 100 days as the rich explorer, seeing how we killed the rich explorer, but the colony goes on. R.I.P. Adams, R.I.P. The sarcophagus also has a very depressing art on it as well. One night a trade caravan came by and they actually were selling some Arctic wolves, so we happily obliged them with some silver and bought our pretty little wolves. And you may be shocked to find out that we were being raided again, right? I know, shocking. Anyhow, they were coming at us, you know the drill, murder hallway, turrets. I actually had some sandbags put at the end of the murder hallway as well now, that way they couldn't stand there, take cover, and try to shoot at us. Which was pretty useless anyhow because half of them fled after the others died on our spike traps. We also ended up enslaving another prisoner that we had taken from a previous raid, and then, just after that, somebody fell from the sky who was an enemy of ours, and we actually captured them to do the exact same thing. I'll be honest with you, I was just really trying to enslave as many people as I could because we were pretty short on manpower now that Adams was dead. Then one night we were actually being raided by the Empire faction on this planet, which was pretty interesting. It's the first raid I think we've had from them, and they actually had some useful weapons and armor. And by this point you know the drill. Most of them hit the traps, the rest of them fled after the others died, yada yada yada, right? But in this case we actually stripped the armor off the corpses, and it was very useful because they also had some assault rifles and whatnot as well. Finally, though, we made it to day 100. Look at that, we have finally survived 100 days as the Rich Explorer, even though the Rich Explorer is dead. but we would carry on Adam's legacy and stand up for our home against this empire. We even allowed our slaves to take up arms against them and assist us in battle. Maybe we would emancipate them. Probably not, but who knows. Then finally, the massive group of raiders came to our doorstep and, of course, began stepping on our spike traps, just how we intended them to do. Now, there were a lot of them, though, so I knew the spike traps would not hold them off totally, but that massive group just kept coming through the murder hallway, not knowing that 2 turrets and a whole group of slaves and people were waiting on them with assault rifles and anything really that we could use against them. We even let Wanda get down and dirty with her sword. She was cutting off limbs left and right, just heads and arms and legs and really anything she could cut off. I won't lie, they were extremely tough, and at a certain point I did think that it was very likely that we would end up losing the battle, no matter how valiantly our colonists and slaves fought for their lives and for their home. But in the end, we did actually end up killing enough of them to make them flee. But guys, that is the end of the video, and this is how we survived 100 days in RimWorld as the rich explorer. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. These videos are always a ton of fun to put out, so I'm glad everyone seems to like them a lot. Be sure to show some love on the video with a little bit of likes and some comments and whatnot. That way you can let me know that you truly do enjoy these videos, so I continue making them. Thank you guys so much for watching, though. I hope to see you in the next one. I hope you guys have a great day. Goodbye.